Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy. I hope you're doing really well wherever or whenever in the world that you are. Today I'm going to be doing the 23 books that I am hoping I get to in the year 2023. Now, it's important to note that these are not new releases for 2023. They're just books that have been on my TBR for quite some time that I'm going to try to prioritize during 2023. I also want to make sure I say that these are not in any particular order. They are just a list, a generic list. I don't have any priorities. The list just is what it is. I have this list organized by genre. So if you're only curious about a particular genre, I'll go ahead and leave those timestamp chapters down below. And sorry, I know you can probably hear Frances. Every time I sit down to film these videos, she decides to play with her loudest toys right at my feet. What can you do? What can you do? All right, the first section of this list are all the sci-fi fantasy books that I'd like to get to in 2023. The first book I have on this list is The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong. And this is a standalone fantasy that I think it follows three characters, a mother, a son, and a father. And I think it takes place over a long period of time. I think they're all fighting a bigger, badder evil out in the world. I honestly don't know too much about this plot. I've just heard nothing but good things. And it's a standalone, and I feel like in fantasy that's rare, and I want to take advantage of that and read it. This has been on my TBR for so long. Like, I think years, plural at this point. So I think 2023 is the year for me to read it. It was also on my list for 2022 and I didn't get to it. The next book is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Now, I read Kindred this past year and it was phenomenal. If you haven't read it, you should do that right now. I also think on Hulu, a TV adaptation just released, which is amazing, and I need to immediately watch that this weekend. This is the first book in the Earthseed duology. I think that's what it's called. All I really know about this book is that it's a bit of a post-apocalyptic, dystopian, sci-fi kind of novel. I think intentionally I'd like to go into this pretty blind. I don't want to read too many reviews. I don't want to know too much about the premise. I think I'm going to enjoy it more that way. The next book that I'd like to get to in 2023 is KKE. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm not 100% sure. And it's by Vaishnavi Patel. If I butcher that, I deeply, deeply apologize. As always, you'll see the title and the author on the screen where the book cover is. This was a debut fantasy story this year. I've heard a lot of buzz. I've heard some rave reviews, and so I want to pick it up. Again, I don't know too much about this plot. What I've heard is that it's a very character-driven story, which I love. And I believe it's a retelling of an Indian epic. And I love a retelling. So I'm really curious, I'm excited, and I'm gonna read it, hopefully, in 2023. The next book is Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott, something like that. I actually first heard about this book on NPR's podcast Pop Culture Happy Hour. They do a segment every week called What's Making Us Happy, and one of the reviewers talked about this book. I believe it's a retelling in a sense of Baba Yaga, which is a mythological creature from Eastern European lore, I guess. I think I'd like to pick this up sometime this winter. I feel like that will really align perfectly with, wintry, cold energy. I think that's going to be a good pair. The next book that I'm hoping to get to in 2023 is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is a bit of a book talk sensation, but I have heard it's just so dang sweet and wholesome, and I could use more of that in my life. The amount of people that I've heard describe this book as a warm hug is so appealing to me. I just feel like in the winter especially, those like sweet, cozy reads that just warm you from the inside out are the best. And so I'm hoping to pick this up maybe on a snowy weekend, snow day. I would love for that to happen. Either way, regardless of the weather, I'd love to pick this one up in 2023. The final sci-fi fantasy book I want to try to prioritize in 2023 is Dark Earth by Rebecca Scott. I think this might have been one of the options for book of the month, one of the months this past year. And all I really know is that this is a historical fiction fantasy story about these two sisters who are trying to survive the Dark Ages. I get the sense that there's magic and adventure, and it centers these two women fighting against the patriarchy, which we love. I don't feel like I've heard all that much about this book, but I really like the cover. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a go in 2023. The next section, the next genre of books that I want to talk about in this list are nonfiction and memoirs. The first of the memoir nonfiction books I want to talk about here is Finding Me by Viola Davis. I love her. It's kind of as simple as that. I also really want to make sure I listen to the audiobook because I know that she narrates it. In interviews or in an article or somewhere, I feel like I read that she describes this book as a love letter to herself. And I just love that sentiment. I just feel like it's gonna be really deeply moving and really insightful. And yeah, I can't wait to read it. The next book is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And I also had this on my 22 books I want to read in 2022. I haven't gotten to it. And I think so much of this has to do more with like, I want to be in the right headspace before I pick up some of these more emotional memoirs. And so I just haven't quite found the right time for me to pick it up. But I'm feeling really hopeful and determined to finally read it in 2023 because I do feel like I'm one of the only people who's not ready yet. So that's another one I want to get to. The last nonfiction memoir kind of book I want to read next year is The 90s by Chuck Klosterman. I think that's his name. I actually bought this book for my dad for his birthday this past year based on a recommendation from one of my sisters. And I think it's just kind of a commentary on all things 1990s, everything from music to pop culture to sports, like everything in between. And apparently it's quite funny and smart. So hopefully I'm gonna get to it. The next genre within this list are romance. The first book I want to talk about in this section is All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. If you don't already know, I finished the month of November reading The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata, and I fell in love. I must read all of her backlist now, and so I'm gonna start here, I think. All I really know about this one is, well, I'm assuming it's gonna be a slow burn, which I love, and I think it's about this woman, Aurora, as she goes back to her hometown after a big heartbreak, and then she meets maybe a single dad. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. The next book I wanna mention is Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. And last year for the book club I'm in at work, we read her collection of short stories. It's called Love in Color. And I loved it. It really helped me get out of a reading slump. I just thought her writing was beautiful. And so I'm really excited to pick up like her first, I think it's her first full-length novel. All I know about this is I believe it has the fake dating trope, which I love. So I can't wait to read it. The next romance book I'm hoping to read next year is The Gay Girl's Guide for Ruining Prom. It's quite a mouthful, by Sierra Malley. This one is a YA lesbian romance that follows this girl, Zoe, as she kind of gets roped into this revenge plot against her best friend's ex. And this is another revenge story that's giving me essence of John Tucker Must Die, which I love. Yeah, this sounds fantastic to me. I can't wait to see where this story goes. I know this author is one of my sister's favorites, so I'm really excited to read this one next year. The last romance book in this little section is Before I Go by Kennedy Ryan. I know literally nothing about this plot, but it came out in November. I love everything Kennedy Ryan writes, and so I'm gonna read it. The next genre of this list of 23 books I wanna read in 2023 are literary fiction. The first book I'm gonna name is Memphis by Tara M. Stringfellow. This is a book I have on my physical TBR. I own the book behind me, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. I've heard great things about it. My grandma read it for a book club and really liked it. This story follows 3 generations of women within a family from Memphis and I think you're just kind of with the family. I don't know much more than that, and I'm really okay with that. The next book on this list is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert, and I'm pretty much adding this because another booktuber, Joshana, raves about this book, and every time she talks about it, it incites all this excitement and curiosity, and I just haven't picked it up yet. So I want to drink the Kool-Aid. I want to know what's so good about this book. So yeah, I'm gonna read it. I don't know anything about the plot. I think it's about a group of friends, but maybe not. We'll have to see. The final book in this little section of literary fiction is The Mothers by Britt Bennett. A few years ago, I read The Vanishing Half by the same author, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so again, it's just been a book on my TBR for a long time now. And so 2023 feels like the year to read it. The next genre of this list is historical fiction. The first book I'm gonna say in this part is Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone by Diana Gabaldon. This is the 9th installment in the Outlander series. I adore this series. It's one of my favorites. I love the characters. I love that I've been able to watch them grow through so much time, so many pages, so many installments. I love that there's a TV show. I've been dragging my feet a little bit to read this one, and I just think it's because there are such big gaps in between one book and its sequel because they are so epic and so sweeping, and I know Diana Gabaldon has to do an incredible amount of research to make these books come to life, and so I'm not like rushing to read it because it's like when I'm done then I just have to wait, but I do want to get to it because it did come out either at the very end of 2021 or the very, very beginning of 2020, and so yeah, I want to get back into this world. I want to spend more time with Jamie and Claire and the whole family. So yeah, I'm excited to read this. The next book on this list is Frenchman's Creek by Daphne du Maurier. I think that's how you pronounce it. God, I'm bad at pronouncing authors' names. I'm honestly not sure why this book intrigues me so much, but it just does. I don't know if it's the cover or the fact that I know it has pirates and danger and adventure. I feel like it's gonna be my cup of tea. I've never read anything by this author before, so we'll see. The next book I wanna get to is Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. I read What the Wind Knows early this year, and I loved it. It was beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes. So like right away, I fell in love with her writing and decided I've got to pick up more by this author. And one of you all recommended this book, so I wanna follow through and I want to read it. Plus, here's the little Goodreads pitch, and it really sold me. It says, in this epic and haunting love story set on the Oregon Trail, a family and their unlikely protector find their way through peril, uncertainty, and loss. I don't know, it sounds good to me. I'm gonna read it. The last historical fiction book I'm hoping to get to next year is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I'm a little late to this party. I've only read The Nightingale, and so I wanna kind of go back and, read all of her backlisted books, and this is the one that I think intrigues me the most right off the bat. All I really know is that I think this book takes place in Texas during the Dust Bowl Great Depression era. And yeah, I don't want to know anymore. My girl, Julia Whalen, is the narrator for the audiobook, so I will absolutely be I'll be listening to this book. It's gonna be great. And the final genre of stories I've included on this list are mystery thrillers. Now, I just wanna put a blanket statement where I try to go into mysteries and thrillers especially. I always like to go in blind when I'm picking up a book, but I really make sure I know next to nothing about the plot going into a mystery because I feel like inadvertently things get spoiled or it like leads me in a purposeful misdirection. And so if I hear it's good and I like the cover, like good enough for me. Those three books are They Never Learn by Lane Fargo, A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham, and The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. So I don't know what any of these are about. I like all of the covers and I've heard good things. So that's good enough for me. So yeah, if my math is correct, which it isn't always, those are the 23 books I'm hoping to get to in 2023. Like I said, they are not new releases coming out next year, but they're just books that have been on my TBR for months and months, and in some cases, years. So I just wanted to name them for myself so that I could prioritize them. And you know, if I read a couple a month, I could knock this out. And I did pretty good with my 22 books that I want to read in 2022. So I feel confident that I'll get through all or most of these. Let me know in the comments down below, what's the 1 or 2 books that you're really, really prioritizing reading next year that are not new releases? Well, I guess they could be new releases if you want to share that information. Thank you so much. If you made it to the end, go ahead and leave a thumbs up emoji, because you're excited to read books. Yeah, I'm sticking with that. If you want to like, subscribe, comment, please do. And if you're just passing through, trying to look for some book inspiration as we step into the new year, that's totally fine too. Yep, okay, that's all I got. I don't need to ramble anymore. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.